All right, in my opinion, this is going to be one of those polarizing ones. I think people heard Ben Johnson's words endorsing Joel Wilson, and you have other people who just don't give much credence to the tight end 4 spot. But then the Bears released the video, 45-second little hype video midweek. Oh, was it this week or last week? Sorry, guys, things have been a blur for me. Where they have Joel Wilson highlighted 3 times, 3 catches in that. I'm not going to show the whole video. But of course, I am going to show the little part here where it's 3 times. Joel Wilson, 3 times. Just check it out. There's Caleb 2. That's him. Joel Wilson. Boom. Catch. Freeze frame. There he is. All right, we got a little Kyler Gordon in the middle here. Tyreek Stevenson breaking it up to DJ Moore. And then there's Cole Kmet, Kyle Monangai. And that's Joel Wilson. Freeze frame it. You get both pictures right there. And then Joel Wilson again. So 3 times the Bears highlighted Joel Wilson in this short little 45-second video. Take this off here. It's worth mentioning when a player is endorsed, like Ben Johnson endorsed him, there's a good shot he's going to make this roster. Now, that's hard to think when you've gone out and you've signed a former tight end 1 for the Dolphins, and that's what Durham Smythe was. He was a former tight end 1 for a year there when they went through transition. Not a bad season either. I think 300, 400 yards in that season, a couple touchdowns. Not a bad season for him. That's not his role. He's primarily a blocking tight end. But he did well as a tight end 1. I wouldn't say elite, wouldn't say you're holding down that position. But then you've got Cole Kmet, who is a tight end 1, probably top 10 tight end still in the league. Even though last year's debacle, I don't blame that on Cole Kmet. That's not Cole Kmet. That's the same thing that DeAndre Swift and DJ Moore and all the rest of them went through. And the tight end position, more than any position, really got hammered by this coaching staff and the turmoil and the flux and everything going on. And then you go out and draft Colston Loveland. So that's where people say there's not really room for Joel Wilson. For a small stint in the middle of the season last year, the Bears did carry 4 tight ends. Tight ends on the 53-man roster is what I mean. Tight ends carry a valuable role on special teams. And when you find one that has good, clean hands, like Joel Wilson does, and that can catch, can contort his body, and it's basically an elaborated wide receiver is what he is. We wanted Colin Johnson last year with his size. It was exciting. The Hall of Fame game, 2 touchdowns and all the yards he got. That was fun. Well, here's a big body guy that fill a role on special teams and can come into Ben Johnson's system, getting an endorsement from Ben Johnson and potentially make this roster. I've got him projected to make my 53-man roster after the endorsement. And I posted this on Twitter, and I really do think this is what it's going to come down to. Sorry for that. Tyler Scott versus Joel Wilson. Now, when you look at that, I think some people right off the bat say automatically, well, Tyler Scott. He's a higher draft pick. He wasn't undrafted like Joel Wilson was. He's got quicker speed. He can take the top off, and maybe that's what this team still needs. Tyler Scott hasn't developed for a reason up to this point. He does have speed. He's a quick guy who can't separate, and that's rough in the NFL. I said the same thing about Matthew Golden being drafted by the Packers. One of the quickest guys now. He's way quicker than Tyler Scott, of course. Matthew Golden, 4.29 speed, but he doesn't separate well either. If you don't have a guy that can separate, is he really that valuable as a wide receiver 6? We know we signed Olamide Zaccheaus, and ESPN wrote an article today where he's one of the most valuable players as a wide receiver 4. That's how they see him, as one of the most valuable wide receivers 4. So when you've got DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden III, Olamide Zaccheaus, and then Zaccheaus' only downfall is dropping punts. He did that last year. Well, we brought in Devin Duvernay, that's his job. He's a punt specialist. So when you've brought that in and you've got those 5, is there really a role for Tyler Scott on this team? And I don't see it. I've seen wasted opportunities by him, not having the killer edge, the killer mentality, maybe a little bit to do with coaches last year. Maybe he hasn't gotten a fair shake. But when you got a guy like Joel Wilson, who's making those catches, I get it, without pads on, there's nobody hitting him. There's nobody, by all accounts, he can block. And tight end positions more than any other positions take a couple years to develop. It's rare when you see a tight end year 1 really comes screaming into the league. In fact, it's more likely that you see someone like Kyle Pitts, who comes in with high accolades, who takes more time to develop. It's not usually year 1 where you see tight ends being that superstar in year 1. Now, Joel Wilson has a whole nother backstory behind him. And again, I know this is small. I always apologize for that, but that's what you get with this channel when you're getting the the Adam Statson when you're getting the stuff that we want to show you the history, show you stuff on here. Sometimes it's going to be a little bit smaller. Now, I'm not going to sit here and proclaim that he was a high projected draft pick coming out of Central Michigan in 2022-23 draft year. So 2022 is the final year. But you can see here's the history behind him. And when there's an injury, it can make that development even a little bit longer. But a good-bodied and really a solid projection of history. So these are reverse flips. You see, PFF, they start with the lower years and move their way up to the top. We're going to start and give a explanation for Joe Wilson here. So in 2019, he broke his foot in the very first game of the season. So right down here, you see that. 2 targets, 1 reception, 7 yards. That was it, 2019. 2020, COVID shortened year. He only played in 3 games. So here's your 2020 year. Coming back, healthy. Nothing really you can gauge from that. 2021 started to emerge, okay? 326 yards on 28 catches with 5 touchdowns. So right here, 28 receptions, 43 targets. I like to see over here 2 for 2 on contested catches, 100%. 3 drops, but then look at the next year's 2022 year. 23 or 0 drops on 57 targets. So 44 receptions, 77% completion. That's pretty freaking amazing. His drop grade amazing. Average depth of target solid. His contested catch still solid. So he emerged enough to be named a 3rd-team All-MAC conference player. No, that's nothing to say, well, he's the most amazing player out there. He wasn't projected to be drafted. He went undrafted. But there was a lot of buzz around him after as an undrafted free agent. Teams wanted to see him. They were bringing him in. The Saints ended up signing him. So here's the history. People on the outside just say, well, there's five teams in a couple years in the league. It's not uncommon with someone that had a major injury. When you're trying to fill 53 roster spots or a practice squad, you've got to have guys that are fit in your exact system. So April 30th, signed with New Orleans Saints after being undrafted. May 13th, so 2 weeks later, he failed a physical due to his ankle injury. Contract was rescinded. 10 days later or 9 days later, he signed with the Buffalo Bills. Limited participation due to his ankle, signed to the practice squad on cutdowns, and then he was released by the Bills on November 7th, mid-season, when they needed more help at other positions. November 28th, 3 weeks later, the Green Bay Packers signed him to their practice squad, signed a reserve future contract, which is what you typically do with a player you want to continue to develop at the end of the year. So they signed him a reserve future contract, participated in their 90-man camp, and then they cut him at the end of that on roster cutdowns. So 53-man cutdowns, they cut him. He then signed with the New York Giants practice squad before the season. That happens a lot where players, 90-man camp, cut down to 53. Another team liked you. The Giants signed him their practice squad. He was released by the Giants just a week later, though. Then 3 weeks after that, he signed to the Bears practice squad. We had him on our practice squad essentially all year last year. A couple weeks into the season. And then we signed him, the same thing the Packers did, signed him to a reserve future contract to participate in 90-man camp, and then I put there to be determined. So high upside player, but when you've got someone like Ben Johnson endorsing you at the beginning of camp here because he's doing well.
Yes. Thank you for giving me a moment there. I didn't want to throw around names for no reason. Yeah, so I'd say defensively, the two guys I would tell you are Dom Robinson. He even without the pads on, he's done a great job of consistently speed rush up the field or countering back to the inside. He's done a really nice job there. And then, of course, he's got some special teams value that he takes a lot of pride in as well. And then I thought the player we probably saw the most improvement from when he stepped in to now was Ruben Hippolyte. I thought he's done a nice job learning. He's swimming a little bit, but he's taken it seriously, and Coach Richard Smith's done a fantastic job with him over the course of the last few weeks. On offense, I'd probably single out Joel Wilson. You saw him today with a big catch. He's kind of had 1 or 2 of those almost every OTA. And then in the running back room, Kyle Monangai has really stepped up. I appreciate the attention to detail and the pride he takes and how quickly he's picking things up as well. So that's 4 good names for you right there.
It's worth mentioning, it's worth noting, and it's worth paying attention to and following because I really do think he's going to make the 53-man roster. Now, I want you guys in the comments to put whether you think Joe Wilson will make the roster. Even further, put whether you think he can make the roster over Tyler Scott. Remember, he just got the shining endorsement from your head coach. He didn't point out 53 players. He pointed out a couple who were standing out. I think all 4 of those guys who are standing out in camp have every opportunity. Now, they've got to put the pads on. We're going to have to go through the preseason. If they can show up and do what this coach has said, hey, I like this player standing out. Look at these catches he's making. Look at what he's done so far. Look at how he's had a couple of those every single day. You've got your receiving type tight end that can help out, especially as Colston Loveland comes back from injury. Now, every report indicates that Colston Loveland should be ready to go here in less than a month. Yeah, well, about a month right now. So Bears training camp, 19th for rookie, 22nd for the vets to report. And then we're going to have less than a month after that, we're going to have preseason. So every account is Colston Loveland's going to be ready. But remember, he's been in the weight room. He's getting back from it. But there's going to be a little adjustment period. I think Joel Wilson will have a little carved out role in this preseason so the Bears can see what they have in him. Is he worth keeping on the 53-man roster? Most teams keep that 6 wide receiver just for special teams. You've got gunners, you've got punt returners, you've got kick returners. Those guys can be valuable. You've got Devin Duvernay, and you've got 4 wide receivers who are going to be your primary 4 wide receiver core. I don't see it really being anything different than DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden III, and Olamide Zaccheaus. Very few reps should go to the other guys. Then you might think, well, you need your return guys. Will Ian Wheeler make the roster? Probably not with where things are heading and trending right now. I really like the kid. But you do have Josh Blackwell as a returner. I would see that being more of an option than Tyler Scott as a returner next to Devin Duvernay. You're going to have Devin Duvernay as your primary guy. So remember, first we started this preseason or this offseason drafting Colston Loveland, and then everybody was saying we're going to trade away Cole Kmet. So I just put a couple of posts here from me earlier in the offseason, and now we're going from trading Cole Kmet to possibly having 4 tight. It's just funny how this offseason works. And I'd rather report on this, a player that shows high upside potential, someone who's shown that the team is endorsing him. So up top, right above me, that's what I put on Twitter. What a great problem to have. Top tight end in the 2025 NFL draft. Best tight end 2 in the league, averaging 60 receptions now. I'm not saying Cole Kmet's just tight end 2. When you draft tight end 10th overall, you're kind of making him your tight end 1. But I think this year Cole Kmet is tight end 1. Anyways, don't get stuck on that. 600 yards, 5 touchdowns per year over 23 and 24. Former Miami tight end number 1 as a tight end 3 and a tight end 4 with a shining endorsement from head coach and the ability to catch and run savvy, nice routes. And I put that in parentheses because that's what Ben Johnson said. So here's your depth chart, okay? And you guys can decide for yourselves. None of us have any say on it anyways, so we're going to find out in a month and a half, 2 months, whenever, August 27th, end of August, cut downs. 2.5 months. Okay. All right. We got time. It feels like this offseason's flying, but you've got the wide receivers. You've got DJ Moore, Luther Burden, Rome Odunze. Like I said, those guys are not going anywhere. Olamide Zaccheaus, I can't see him going anywhere, especially all the shining and endorsements he's getting and how the league sees him. And Devin Duvernay is the return guy. This is really where your cutoff is. Does Tyler Scott make this team? Does one of these guys jump above for, I don't know, tight ends is what you've got. There's a lot of things that could happen. So I put this out a while ago. Now I've added, I'm going to make me really small. How small can I make me? You guys still see me down there? I added on here Joel Wilson. So I put before the different types of tight ends and why several can fit on this team in the roster. So your inline traditional tight end, Cole Kmet, he's not going anywhere. Then you've got your blocking tight end, Durham Smythe. He's replaceable, but I don't see them getting rid of him. He really is a valuable. We paid $2.5 million for him, $1.5 million in dead cap. I don't see Durham Smythe going anywhere. Colston Loveland obviously not going anywhere, but he's your flex tight end. He can be in the slot or out wide, split between blocking and receiving. But Joel Wilson is a true receiving tight end. He's really your Joker hybrid tight end. No, I'm not comparing him to Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, Kyler Pitts. I'm not saying he's that high level of guy, but this is what he does. He's a route running speed mismatch against linebacker and safety. That's what his role is on this team. So is there a role for him? Yeah, especially when you add in special teams and how valuable tight ends are when you put them in on field goal blocks, when you put them in on returns, when you put them, I mean, their size is valuable. So I absolutely think there's an avenue for Joel Wilson to make this roster, especially with the skill set he brings and how he's developing. So this is where I have it, and then I'll show this as well. This is another reason. I've talked to you guys about the salary cap and how we're already over the cap for next year. When you look at this, and Durham Smythe isn't on the roster next year, you've got players like exclusive right free agent Joel Wilson that's impressing coaches. And when you have the exclusive right to a player, you can sign them at a league minimum contract the next year. Well, there's a set value that you can set them for, and it's going to be cheap. So is this the path the Bears take, and next year he can be tight end 3? And if you get more value out of him, awesome. If you get the value for this young developing player, makes it worth keeping him on the roster. So I do have him as a backup on the 53-man roster, special team contribution. Again, let me know what you guys think, though. I'm curious what your thoughts are. This is the third position group we've done. We've done the 2 lines. Now we're doing tight ends. And I do have Joel Wilson, especially after the shining endorsement from Brian Johnson, making this 53-man roster. That's what I've got. So let me know what you guys think in the comment. Let me know what you think about Joel Wilson, especially after you see a couple of those highlight clips in the Bears little hype video they did, the 45-second clip video. He's in there 3 times, and one of them is a pretty solid circus catch. When you got a player that's showing potential, snag. Should have just skipped over this, but there's Cole Kmet. And this next one after Monongai, look at that. He snags that catch. I tried to freeze it, but it was bad timing. And that one there. So I don't know. I think he makes the roster. Maybe I don't know. Why would I be biased? I don't know. I just really see the shining endorsement, and I see his value on the team. I like Joe Wilson. Let me know what you guys think, though. I appreciate you tuning in. Till next time, Da Bears and Bear Down.
Bear down, sports making Chicago proud.